Hi there, this is the last video of Ramazani's um, reading of Ramazani's essay. And towards the end of the essay, he talks about the unhomeliness which many post-colonial poets always face, and it is basically the experience of living in a home which is someone else's, and basically that is the experience of inhabiting a culture, a language, you know, etc., which belongs not to you but to someone else. And what if that particular home is imposed upon you by the governments, by the colonizers who consider us as racially inferior? So that is the poignant question which the post-colonial poets have in mind when they talk about unhomeliness. And the result of such unhomeliness is what we call minor literature, which is written by the minorities or the margins of the communities, and more often they write in a language which is imposed upon them by the colonizer. So let me read from the essay. In Missing Person, which is a poem by the Bombay poet Adil Jusawala, colonial letter A is said to be in contrast to the native alphabet that has been displaced. This is how the poem goes. Here to stay on it, St. Pancras Station, the Indian and African railways. As a schoolboy, the South Asian child sees the letter A, inextricable from British colonial expansion in India and Africa, as potentially dangerous, which is aimed at your throat, and potentially beautiful like a butterfly's wing. Traveling to the seat of empire, Jusawala's speaker is made to feel like many former colonial subjects, as if he is stealing and corrupting someone else's language. You are polluting our sounds. You are so rude. Get back to your language, they say. That is a quote from the poem. Having been forced into an unhomely language and then trying to assimilate it as their own, post-colonial poets ironically risk being seen by both Western and indigenous detractors as occupying a language to which they have no rightful claim. So many post-colonial writers kind of find it quite difficult to abandon this tongue, the colonial tongue, completely, and they try to appropriate the Prospero's language so as to curse Prospero. So they transform it to suit the language appropriately as they want to express what they want to write about. So again, I read from Ramazani. Even when they write in neither an overt English Creole nor a native language, post-colonial poets can subtly creolize standard English. Schooled in the colonizer's landscape, they pepper standard English with local place names like Jejuri or Ibadan, and intently name flora like the mango and red champak tree, fauna like the paradise flycatcher and Columbus mangi. Sometimes all the words are the same as those of a standard English dictionary, but the post-colonial poet may still successfully indigenize English and English poetic forms. Now, post-colonial poets inherit language depending on their context. In the West Indies, it is quite impossible to trace the root of Creole, and Louis Benet was actually the first West Indian poet to master English, and then later many poets followed her. And perhaps the clearest example of formal interculturalization in post-colonial poetry is the hybridization of Western literary models and non-Western oral traditions. And boldly satirizing Jamaican racism, I read from Ramazani, immigration and even independence, Louis Benet welds together and thus transfigures both the English ballad and the witty Creole strategies of Anansi tales, that is, the trickster stories, Labrish, which is gossip, and broad talk, which is performative oratory. So post-colonial poets like Louis Benet, they experiment with poetry, with Western language, and also with Western linguistic forms, poetic styles, etc., so as to suit their post-colonial clime. And I would like to read the last sentence in the essay and let that be the conclusion for the whole presentation. As many of us seek to understand our relation to an increasingly intercultural and interlocking globe, post-colonial poets have a great deal to teach us about aesthetics, language, and experience of the contemporary world.